This offshore oil rig is 16 stories tall and as wide as 2 football fields, and its weight is astonishingly more than even an aircraft carrier. This oil platform is called Appomattox, which is currently located 134 kilometers off the coast of Louisiana in North America, in the Gulf of Mexico. But the beginning of its journey started a few years ago, thousands of miles away in South Korea, where thousands of workers and engineers were busy building this oil platform. After 7 full years of hard work, when Appomattox was finally ready, the engineers had to face a challenge they were experiencing for the very first time in their careers. The problem was that this massive structure had to be shipped from South Korea to the Gulf of Mexico, and for this purpose, the world's largest marine transport vessel was brought in. Lifting the oil platform and placing it onto this vessel was a task that was supposed to take at least 7 days. But suddenly they received news that a storm had formed in the Pacific Ocean and had taken the shape of a super typhoon. A typhoon of this level occurs only once in 20 years. Spinning at a speed of 315 kilometers per hour, this typhoon could strike the coast of South Korea at any moment within the next 7 days. And we all know that when a super typhoon strikes somewhere, it never leaves without causing destruction. For the workers, engineers, and transport experts, the challenge now was to complete 7 days of work in just 3 days. Meaning, if Appomattox, the oil platform, was not lifted from the shipyard, loaded onto the marine vessel, and dispatched within 3 days, then years of hard work could be wasted in just a single moment. This was a problem that shook the entire management from top to bottom. Once again in the videos, Shell's Nazarene, this oil platform was the oil company's biggest project, and that is exactly why there was no room for even a single mistake. To avoid the super typhoon and dispatch Appomattox ahead of schedule, it was absolutely essential to complete the remaining work for which an extra army of workers was called in. The workers worked day and night and began preparing Appomattox for transport as quickly as possible. On the other side, the management, in coordination with the Meteorological Administration, was keeping a close eye on the super typhoon's movement. They had one hope that perhaps the super typhoon would change its direction. But it felt as though water had been poured on their hopes when they found out that the typhoon was heading straight from the Pacific Ocean towards South Korea. The army of workers put their heart and soul into it and completed all the work on Appomattox within just 3 days. Now it was time to lift this massive structure and place it onto the floating dry dock. The total weight of this entire structure was an astonishing 143,100 tons. Even the construction of the Burj Khalifa did not use as much steel as was used in this oil platform. With the help of large hydraulic jacks, it was pushed inch by inch and placed onto the floating dry dock. Then, tugboats pulled the floating dock away from the shipyard, from where it was to be loaded onto the marine vessel. This is the world's largest marine transport vessel, which can easily carry a weight of 98,000 tons. And it was on this very vessel that Appomattox had to travel to the other side of the world, the Gulf of Mexico. The next morning, Appomattox was offloaded from the floating dock. Now, for the first time, the oil platform began floating on water. Then, tugboats pulled the platform towards the designated port, where the marine vessel was already waiting. On the other side, the super typhoon was rapidly advancing towards South Korea, and a sword was hanging over the management's heads. The super typhoon was now only 48 hours away, and as it got closer, its signs began to appear in the ocean as well. The winds and waves in the sea were increasing, which was a warning sign for Appomattox. The moment was very delicate. Loading an oil platform onto a vessel is an extremely complicated task. For this, the vessel first takes water into its internal ballast tanks, which causes it to submerge into the water. Then, tugboats pull the oil platform and bring it over the vessel. And finally, the vessel pumps the water back out, which causes the vessel to rise up and lift the oil platform out of the water. But this task is not as easy as it looks in the animation. For this work, the sea needs to be completely calm, because if this is done in waves, Appomattox will not be able to load onto the vessel in the correct alignment, and this could be dangerous for both the vessel and Appomattox. Due to the super typhoon, the sea was extremely rough. Because of the strong waves and high winds, it was impossible to carry out this work. On the other hand, time was passing very quickly and the entire team's stress level had gone up significantly. Fortunately, the meteorological department informed the team that the next morning there would be only a 2-hour window during which there was a chance the sea would be calm. If this task was not completed within those 2 hours, then there would be no other chance after that. The super typhoon was now only 36 hours away. Early the next morning, just as predicted, the sea was completely calm. Without wasting a single moment, the oil platform was pulled over the vessel, and the vessel pumped out the water and lifted it up onto itself. Several hours before the super typhoon arrived, Appomattox had finally managed to bid farewell to South Korea. Shell had successfully completed its first challenge by saving its oil platform from the super typhoon. But that did not mean there were no more challenges ahead. After a journey of several months, the oil platform was offloaded again in South Texas because there were certain modules that were being manufactured there. The modules were fitted onto Appomattox's platform, and once again it was dispatched towards its final destination, 130 kilometers away, where it was to remain for the next 40 years. After 7 full years of hard work, the moment had finally arrived when Appomattox had to be connected to the oil located 30,000 feet below. At the location where Appomattox is floating on water, the bottom of the sea is 7,400 feet deep. This is such a great depth that approximately 3 Burj Khalifas could fit inside it. But the oil to which Appomattox had to connect was an astonishing 22,600 feet below even that depth. At such extreme depths inside the sea, the water pressure is immense. It is impossible for any human to go there and carry out any kind of mission. Therefore, the decision was made to use a remotely operated underwater vehicle to connect the riser to the oil opening on the seabed. An installation platform was installing underwater pipelines from a separate platform. They sent the ROV into the sea using a crane. This is an extremely complicated task, in which the pipeline has to be guided and landed precisely over the opening of the oil well, 7,400 feet below. The control for carrying out this task with such accuracy at that depth rests in the hands of an ROV operator sitting above, who performs this mission like a video game. Fortunately, this task was completed on the very first attempt. Now it was time to transfer the pipe from the installation platform to Appomattox. This process is called a riser transfer, in which 4 different vessels work simultaneously. First, a chain was pulled out from Appomattox. The ROV took this chain and delivered it to the other ship. That ship pulled the chain, and finally, Appomattox pulled the chain back towards itself, bringing the pipe along with it. After this, the drilling work began. From the seabed, thousands of feet further below, approximately 22,600 feet down, the pipe had to be drilled all the way to the oil. After several months of drilling, the pipe had finally reached the oil. Now it was time to pump the oil. The entire team had gathered to witness this moment, and with the press of a button, the oil pump was switched on. When oil was pumped up for the first time from 30,000 feet below, the joy on everyone's faces was something to behold. The 7 years of hard work of the workers, engineers, and management had finally paid off. The flow of oil and its quality were absolutely perfect. Today, Appomattox produces 175,000 barrels of oil every single day, from which enough fuel is produced that 4 million vehicles can use in a single day. Shell believes that for the next 40 years, until 2065, Appomattox will continue producing oil in the same way. I hope that you will like and share this video generously. Thank you so much for your loving comments. See you in the next amazing video.